Hello everybody, it is Mike Levin, the Poconos Pythonista, previously of New York City, and I am here today to show you how to make yourself operating system independent by having a system of operating that can work on pretty much any modern OS these days. Here I am on Windows 10, and if I hit Windows Tab, you'll see I've got a number of these virtual screens going, which is pretty much the same as you can do on the Mac OS or Ubuntu or any other popular desktop graphical operating system these days. So in the first one, just to hit the point home, I use my keyboard shortcut, and you'll see these icons here. They have special meaning because in Windows, when you leave an icon out on the desktop, you can give it a keyboard shortcut. And every operating system has their ways of launching apps with keyboard shortcuts. This is Windows' way. And whenever I do this, I make sure that the keyboard shortcuts for, say, bringing up a terminal, which is often built into the operating system, but as at least similar across all the systems I work on. So Control-T, and we've got one of these new Windows 10 Linux instances. This is Ubuntu 18.04, and it's on WSL2, the Windows subsystem for Linux 2. And any of you who have said yes to that Windows 2004 version that's been offered under update, you won't see it here because I've already accepted it and have been running it for a while, but you see it offered here very often. Has Linux now, at least the kernel, on your system, and all you have to do is go to the Microsoft Store, download Ubuntu, and you can fire up a terminal just like this. And you can see I'm in the GitHub directory, and every operating system these days has this idea of a home directory, which I'll do it on my third window because the second is going to have a browser. But if I bring up Explorer or the file browser or Nautilus, you see it's the same in every operating system. There's always going to be some concept of a home directory, which here under Windows you get to through users, and you go into your machine here, and you'll see that I have a GitHub directory in here, and by putting a GitHub directory inside of there, you're sort of leaning into these very fixed paths across all your different systems. So back to screen 2. Remember, I've got this ribbon of virtual screens. First one is almost always dedicated to full screen terminal, and in particular really my journal, where I have a keyboard shortcut to start a journal entry, and this is where I would put my daily entries. If we scroll down, you'd actually see my August 5th entries for the workday today. But for the sake of this video, I start a new journal entry. And through the course of the day, I just keep adding notes here, as things come up. And this is Vim. This is a text editor that I'm using in much the same way people would use VS Code or Sublime or TextMate or any of the many text editors that come and go over the years. But Vim and its earlier incarnations has been around since really the rise of Unix, not even Linux, not even the web. It predates all of that, and it'll be around for probably even much longer. So it's very based on muscle memory. It plays like a video game, and you'll never go obsolete on this. So part of what I'm showing you here is how to resist obsolescence and to continue to be a fairly heavy hitter in the tech area, with none of your skills ever being taken away from you by vendors changing their products and new technology coming in and out of vogue. This is all the timeless, obsolescence-proof stuff. So anyway, I position these usually in the order that I'm using them. So I had run that on screen 1. This will be on screen 2. The keyboard shortcut is Control-Alt-J, and you'd think it'd be a browser, but it actually is J for Jupyter Labs. So Jupyter Labs forces the browser to run, and because I'm using it to run the browser, it puts itself in tab 1, which is a very nice place to be. And As you'll see, this is my home directory, and there's my GitHub repo, or my GitHub folder full of repos. And if I were to put something new in here, this is a great trick. This is one of the best tricks because all my locations are easy to get to. This is where I am. And so now if I go back here, I'll take a moment to refresh, but there's where I am. And I can create a new notebook in there. And I can do a basic hello world, which, interestingly, if you are new to the world of Python, if you're getting ready to jump on the bandwagon, hello world under this environment, Jupyter Lab, this is a notebook. So you'll often hear Jupyter Notebook. This is a Jupyter Notebook under Jupyter Lab, a slightly different user interface to what used to be known as Jupyter Notebook, which is really still around, but this is the new user interface for it. If you were to just try and run that, it wouldn't work. It would say invalid syntax. But if you simply put quotes around it, double or single or double quotes, now it runs. There's your hello world program. So Python is quite easy to take up. And, you know, this is in particular what hello world looks like under Jupyter Lab, which you get from the Anaconda install. If you were to take something away from this video to try and get to where I am, in addition to like using those virtual desktops, which are really awesome, and get it into your fingers how to go left and right in them, you'll never need a second monitor in your life. It makes you a more portable and dynamic person. Wherever you sit down with your laptop, you have like all this screen space. And you don't even have to turn your head. People with these big monitors are like, oh, I can show this, I can show that. Yeah, well, I tell you, it's not everything they think it is if you get the right habits. This is more timeless because multiple monitors, static state. You rely on that instance. This, any laptop, anywhere. So anyway, let's make it a more appropriate Python hello world that doesn't rely on some of the shortcuts that are made available by Jupyter Notebook / Lab environment. You put the print statement around it, so that's print hello world. And then, you know, this third screen here I use for other things, but in this case I'll use it for art rage because I just want to get across the idea. What we're talking about here is OS independence. You're getting this OS independence through the clever use of virtual screens. I'm just writing it out. This would probably have been more appropriate over here. Through push that down, I actually put another entry there just so I never accidentally show my my actual workday entry. Virtual screens. This is an Anaconda install, but it's really the browser. It's the first window. You know, window 1. You know, it's a Unix terminal. It's really a Linux terminal, but let's call it what it is. These are timeless because, you know, behind everything is the fact that a Unix / Linux terminal is really running the show. Every technology, even Microsoft, is coming around. So window 2 is always a browser, and in specific, it's Jupyter, J-U-P-Y, it's Jupyter Lab I run. And any window 3 is anything, you know, first, you know, project specific thing. Because no matter what projects I'm doing, these two are always the same. So I just thought I'd run this full screen thing because I will be drawing pretty pictures for you as we go on with this method of illustrating stuff. I'll get lots of practice in. These are the primitive first videos where I'm sort of getting my act down, and I'll be doing all this stuff for you to bring you along and bring you to where I am with the ability to knock projects out quickly. I'll be showing you how to take stuff here that you code up quickly and moving it over to something that's a lot more like automated Linux running, on a scheduler. You hear cron job all the time, but it's not really cron jobs I will be taking you to, but to scheduling. So the purpose is to, help you develop Python skills, develop literacy, develop modern literacy, mostly through Python, but Linux, Python, Vim, and Git, and mock it up fast in Jupyter, move it over to headless Linux server. And that's pretty much it, right? That's what I'm going to be teaching you. It's got endless utility. It will serve you for the rest of your life, and it's a great way to work. It's very love-worthy. I talked about in earlier videos. My topics are really life topics. They often go to tools. I'm using Linux to stand in for, a whole grab bag of tools. And all because it's love-worthy. So I'll just put, love there. And what, how, and why, right? Those are the big ones right there. I'll be teaching you all the little tricks. Everything in tech is a trick. So I'll throw one bonus trick in before we wrap up this video. Everything in tech is a trick. So many things in tech are text files, and so many things in processing text files is processing items from a list. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is one of my best tricks now. So if I were to just run that, just like when I tried running Hello World up there, initially you'll get a syntax because, those don't have any quotes around them. And if I were to put quotes around them, it would be tedious to build this up. So instead, you just highlight the whole thing. I'm putting triple quotes before and after it, and now it's not an error, but it comes out as this one string with these characters \n in there, which represents a line return. So if I just split this into separate components on the \n, now it's a list. And when you have a list, you can do things for each member of the list. So, let's call that list foo because variable names are arbitrary. So foo is those items. Now, typically in programming languages, you would do for item in foo, and you would do things like print item, and there you get each item in the list printed out. But say you wanted to append something to it, and I'll use a little trick for doing an append. We put a little %s, which means that's going to go in there as a string value, and then I'll say bar here. And so now 1 bar, 2 bar, 3 bar, 4 bar, 5 bar, because I'm printing that. But to turn my one best trick into two of my best tricks, if you just put that foo there, first you will get the representation of the contents, but say I wanted to do that same thing. If I put that in square brackets, it now is a nested list. You'll see it's a list inside a list. That first square bracket is a list, and the inner square brackets are another list. But now you can say x for x in. X is arbitrary, and you get your list back. But now you can do in one line what took 2 lines before. That's list comprehension. And I have built a new list instead of just printing, because what good is printing? If you're showing the user something, that's good, but I am actually in one line transforming this list here, which contains that value, into this list here, which contains that value. So it's called a list comprehension, and with list comprehensions, you can do all these magical data transforms that helps in almost every aspect of programming. List comprehension. So that's my introduction to my work environment. I love doing this. You pop around real quick. You always know you have that in the first screen, this in the second screen, and you open new tabs when you're doing normal browser stuff. So I cannot emphasize enough that the thing you want to do, right, as your next step is to go to the Anaconda website. If you haven't done it already, download Anaconda. No programming language, rarely are programming languages complete everything you need out of the box. There's always stuff added. And, on JavaScript, you're adding, framework after framework in order to make it useful. Some people do vanilla JavaScript, but for the most part, people are downloading some large JavaScript framework. On Python, to get this environment, which also includes something called pandas underneath and a whole bunch of data science stuff, what you do is you go to Anaconda, and they change their site around a little, but you want to download solutions. They don't make it straightforward. Individual edition. Products, individual edition. They definitely make you look around, don't they? Download. Ah, there it is. Depending on yours. Oh, they're up to 3.8. I'm going to have to upgrade myself. It's a pain in the butt, but you want to uninstall your last version of Anaconda if you already have it and install the new one. And it's actually quite important to do that because there's no clean way that I know of to truly upgrade your Anaconda base configuration up to the current thing. But as you saw, because if I go, new here, that's a new cell. If I go new, I still have 3.6 on there. So a lot of your stuff from your old Anaconda environments hangs around even when you want to install and update the new Anaconda. So I'll be bringing this up to 3.8, and that'll probably be the next video I make, how to get to the next version Anaconda cleanly on a Windows 10 system. So that's a good place to wrap up. Thanks for joining me. Hope to see you again soon, and don't forget to subscribe.